A man in his early 50s talked with his son on the platform in Fulham Estates Mall in Tai Po 6 years ago. During their talk, unemployed man, alcohol-related unemployed man interrupt their talk many times. The early 50 man and unemployment man fight together. After the unemployed man was overpowered by the early 50 man, he has grievous in his heart. Unemployed man took a knife back to the scene and stabbed old man. After that, the unemployed man was charged with murder, and he was sentenced life. He was verdict as life sentences in 2019. After that, the allowed appeal cases returned to court of first instance for retrial, but the result as in 2 years before, in March, he was sentenced of murder. He appealed for a second time. High Court appeal verdict. He allowed the appeal previous date and used mental problem as the foundation for diminished responsibility. Verdict sentences he of manslaughter. After the submission of medical report, appeal court on today, March 3rd of March 2023, sentenced him to jail 12 years and 9 months. The court will give out written judgments, explain the reason after he was in jail. How do I pronounce it? Jam, right? Jam. Fuck. In the previous state, the court indicate that the judge missed. The judge told haven't correctly haven't give out correct instruction to the jury, or she let jury think misunderstood that evidence can show at the material time appellants drink alcohol is appellants voluntarily drink alcohol, then the diminished defense of appellants cannot sustain, cannot acquittal. Appeal court, the Court of Appeal point out more audience are not white and not audience are not white and black. Jury should determine the drinking of appellants before killing, as or not can be seen as it is because alcohol liamens central and not done by voluntary. The Court of Appeal think the verdict of the jury was not discouraged them allow the appeal. An old man with his early 50s. What? An old man in his early 50s talked with his son on the platform in Fulham Estate Mall, Tai Po, 6 years ago. During the talk, alcohol-liant unemployed man interrupt the talking many times. Old man and unemployed man fight each other. After unemployed man was overpowered by old man, he kept the grievous on his heart, took a knife back to the place and stomped into old man's belly. The unemployed man was convinced as murder, as homicide, as murder. Then was sentenced life sentence in 2019. After that, the cases, the allow appeal cases returned to court of first instance for retrial. The results in March 2 years ago keep court sentences of murder. He appealed for second time. Court of Appeal allow the appeal before for the reason of mental problem foundation on diminished responsibility sentences him as manslaughter. After submit medical report, the Court of Appeal sentenced him 12 years and 9 months today, which is 3rd of March 2023. The court will give out written judgments for explain after. The Court of Appeal indicates few days ago the judge too haven't give out proper instruction to the jury. She misleading the jury. Think about if evidence can show the drinking action of appellants was voluntary, then the diminished responsibility defense of appellants cannot be solid, cannot be vowed, right? Vowed. The Court of Appeal point out law audience are not black and white. The jury should deter the drinking before killing of appellants can or cannot be seen as alcohol liable syndrome and not voluntarily done by him. The Court of Appeal think the jury's verdict was not discouraged, so it allowed appeal.
大家可以聽我講啦，呢一個係一個都好有趣、好偉大嘅角色啦，因為我哋都有一個好完美嘅成個團隊同埋我哋嘅導演，所有人對我都係好支持嘅。當我喺嗰個熒幕度出現嘅時候，大家都係關注我，所有人都做咗自己最好㗎啦，所以我都好感謝佢哋咁樣。我哋成個過程中係好有趣嘅。而如果呢個基本上係一個所有演員都想要去體驗嘅一個角色啦，我哋嘅拍攝過程係好有趣嘅。咁如果嗰個結果係可以令到你覺得好開心嘅話，咁我覺得呢個都係我夢想中嘅工作嚟嘅，因為喺我哋嘅成個過程之中係都好有趣同埋好有意義嘅。我都好抱歉我使咗咁多嘅時間先嚟到呢度啦，同大家見面嘅。但係大家相信我今次嘅嚟，我覺得係好值 已經係好好嘅，我都好開心可以嚟到呢度同你哋見面啦。所有嘅嘢到目前為止都係算幾好嘅，我哋都可以見到嗰啲嘅回應，我都唔會話太在意嗰啲回應啦。暫時嚟講就係咁啦，多謝大家，我會好期待再同大家見面。
Former chairman of the board was arrested on suspicion of abandon of his mistress' corpse, his mistress' dead body. The jury reached a lawful verdict of manslaughter. Marriage Securities Company a former chairman of the board, Ivan Chen, was suspicious of killing his mistress, 33-year-old Chen Gayi, and abandoned Chen Gayi's dead body. That body haven't found back nowadays. Chairman Shen was not pled guilty when he admitted to let mistress silence in the quarreling. He pressed her face, mouth, and nose without self-control, and hold her in a choke. And falsely pressed. It was emphasized that he was no intention of killing, but he was provoked. Then killing his mistress by mistake in plan. 5 female and 4 male jury deliberate for 4 hours yesterday and reached a lawful verdict. He was reached a lawful verdict of manslaughter rather than murder. the judge and adjourned the case until sentenced today. The judge won't direct the jury indicated prosecutor should prove he was provoked to kill. If he can prove it, then the verdict of manslaughter valid yesterday. Should burden the proof, should prove all elements of murder, including his intention to kill. When Chamberlain heard the jury reach a lawful verdict of manslaughter, prosecutor burdened the proof beyond reasonable doubt, and the jury inadmissible. He was ranized with final verdict. Looked around the court, tears down because he was impressed. Defendant senior counsel Miss Charlotte pointed out the defendant Chamberlain did his time for 9 years. His business and family was ruined. According to previous cases, 6 to 9 in prison will be sentenced of manslaughter. Hope judge will give out him immediate release sentences. Prosecutor submit manslaughter cases thinks that 12 years in prison can be sentenced. Judge Wong need time for considering. Therefore, the court was adjourned until today. The first cases of no dead body no plead guilty, and no forensic evidence murder case. Chen Mengsheng was not pled guilty of murder at the first time in 2015. In 2015, the jury reached a lawful verdict of murder. It became the case's no dead body. It became the case's not dead body, not pled guilty, not formal evidence, but successful sentences murder case in the first case in Hong Kong. Chen was allowed the appeal, and the cases returned and retried again. In 2016, in 2017, during hearing, Chen changed his statements amid of manslaughter, but another group of jury still verdict of murder. Chen appealed again until this year, the third trial.
上次听了头3分钟。
The citizens of both countries have gradually learned about each other.
试点1，上海市英语高级口译资格证书第1阶段考试。Section 1, Listening Test. Part A, Spot Dictation. Directions. In this part of the test, you will hear a passage and read the same passage with the blanks in it. Fill in each of the blanks with a word or words you have heard on the tape. Write your answer in the corresponding space in your answer booklet. Remember, you will hear the passage only once. Now let's begin. Part A with a spot dictation.
I'm so grateful for the hospitality and honored for the reception at one of China's and the world's great universities. I want to thank the students for giving me the chance to meet with you, the chance to talk a little bit about my country and answer some of your questions. The standards and reputation of this university are known around the world, and I know what an achievement it is to be here. So congratulations. My visit to China comes on an important anniversary. 30 years ago this week, an American president arrived in China on a trip designed to end decades of estrangement and to confront centuries of suspicion. President Richard Nixon showed the world that two vastly different governments could meet on grounds of common interest, in the spirit of mutual respect. During the 30 years since, America and China have exchanged many handshakes of friendship and commerce. And as we have had more contact of each other, the citizens of both countries have gradually learned about each other. And that's important. Once America knew China only by its history as a great and enduring civilization. Today, we see a China that is still defined by noble traditions of family, scholarship, and honor. And we see a China that is becoming one of the most dynamic and creative societies in the world, as demonstrated by the knowledge and potential right here in this room. China is on a rising path, and America welcomes the emergence of a strong and peaceful and prosperous China. As America learns more about China, I'm concerned that the Chinese people do not always see a clear picture of my country. This happens for many reasons, and some of them are of our own making. Our movies and television shows often do not portray the values of the real America I know. Our successful businesses show a strength of American commerce, but our spirit, community spirit, and contributions to each other are not always visible as monetary success. My country certainly has its share of problems, no question about that, and we have our faults. Like most nations, we're on a long journey towards achieving our own ideals of equality and justice.
我今日好榮幸可以嚟到呢度，好感謝你哋可以接待我嚟到呢個喺全世界都好知名嘅大學之中，感謝你哋俾我一個機會可以同同學見面，同同學講少少關於我國家嘅事情，以及回答一啲問題。呢間學校嘅教育水平同埋聲譽喺全球都係好有名嘅。我知道到底你哋要有點樣嘅程度先可以入到呢間學校，所以恭喜各座嘅大家今日係嚟到呢度作為呢度嘅學生。我今日嘅見面係好重要嘅，因為30年前嘅今個星期就係美國同中國進行建交嘅第一日。美國希望可以打破外交僵局，同中國有一個和諧嘅外交進行。美國總理尼克遜嚟到中國，代表住中國同美國兩個完全唔同嘅政府都可以因為有相同嘅利益同埋一啲合作可以坐低慢慢傾。我哋係秉住一個互相尊重、中立嘅態度，同對方誠懇、真誠咁樣去探討問題。因為中英兩國之間嘅交流更加頻密咗啦，我哋因為有一啲相同嘅，就產生咗一啲相同嘅有啲共通點，同埋令到我哋嘅友誼更加進步。因為兩國之間嘅人更加頻密咁樣接觸咗，所以我哋從對方身上都學到唔同嘅嘢。呢一點係好重要嘅，因為我哋美國從以前開始都係由歷史之中了解到中國係一個點樣嘅文明。我哋知道話中國係一個好偉大、好繁榮、好強盛嘅文明，但係當我哋真係嚟到中國嘅時候，我哋發現到中國喺傳統價值觀、家庭、學術同埋點樣令到社會可以更加融合共處嘅情況下，係做咗好多嘅努力。我哋係希望中國，我哋都見到中國係一個好有創意、好有潛力嘅國家。我可以由今日嚟到呢度嘅你哋睇得出，中國係處於一個正在向上發展嘅國家，而美國好歡迎中國有咁樣嘅進步，喺佢嘅繁榮，喺佢嘅更加好嘅一方面發展啦。中國對於但係我更加了解中國人之後，我發現中國人其實唔係好知道美國到底佢真正嘅價值喺邊度。呢個係有好多嘅原因嘅，因為好大嘅情況係美國製造出嚟嘅電影、電視劇都有一種係想要去宣傳大美國主義， 呢件事對我哋美國人嚟講都係有啲奇怪嘅，但係我相信更加多嘅價值係我哋美國嘅精神，我哋美國同各個國家交流嘅技巧，我哋對於世界同埋國家嘅貢獻，呢啲先係我哋真正想展現出嚟嘅美國嘅價值。美國都係有好多問題嘅，我哋係承認嘅，而我都知道美國我哋係有會做錯嘅地方。我哋而家都係我哋國家而家都係努力咁樣去，希望可以做到更好，去提升我哋自己自我認同、自我身份認同嘅概念。我哋有一個好嘅質素，以及追求公義。
Part of the test, there will be some short talks and conversations. After each one, you'll be asked some questions. The talks, conversations, and questions will be spoken only once. Now listen carefully and choose the right answer to each question you have heard and write the letter of the answer you have chosen in the corresponding space in your answer booklet. Now let's begin Part B with listening comprehension.
Questions 1 to 5 are based on the following conversation.
I'm thinking of learning Italian. Are you familiar with the language? Don't you speak Italian? I thought you had learned Italian before.
Well, I did. I used to go to adult classes to do Italian in my spare time, and I loved it. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed learning it.
Is it easy?
Well, it's quite easy, because I think particularly in Italian, they have one word that means an awful lot. I mean, many things or ideas. But the thing is that I've forgotten an awful lot because I haven't. I mean, I used to go to Italy quite a lot, and I haven't been there for a long time. Of course, if I'm there again, I'll find I pick it up really quickly.
So you find it easier actually in the country?
Oh, much easier. I mean, I had kind of worked there very briefly, but, well, for a couple of months, and by the time I came back, I was really excellent.
Well, the thing is that I want to get to know the language, to be able to speak it quite well first, so that I don't kind of make a fool of myself when I go out there, because I don't particularly like making mistakes.
Oh, you shouldn't worry about making mistakes. That's ridiculous.
No, I suppose not really. I should be a bit more adventurous, really.
Well, and also I tell you, it's completely different when you're there. I mean, when you hear people talking naturally and at the right sort of speed and everything, it sounds so different. And also when you have to do things, you know, if you go into a shop and you have to buy something, you have to communicate. So you just do it. I mean, you just learn how to do it.
But what about vocabulary and things? Do you, if they're words you don't know, I mean, how do you look them up and translate them back to them?
Yeah. I mean, I used to have a wonderful time. I used to always go back and get really frustrated by something I wanted to say and then go home and look it up and work out how to say it. And I'd be really pleased with myself that I'd come up with this phrase that, you know, somebody might understand.
When you learned, did you have, was it one-to-one? Did you have a teacher or just you or another person in the class?
Oh, no, it was a big class.
So you all used to do conversation with each other and...
Yes, I mean, she'd kind of take.
I think I also prefer a big class.
Yes, and also, I mean, it can be great fun. I mean, if there's sort of a nice bunch in the class and everything, it can be very funny. And also, when you get it wrong, it's a hoot. I mean, and you get homework. I mean, it's a bit like going back to school. But it's, no, it's great fun. And they used to do things like you'd go to an Italian restaurant, say, and you don't have to speak. Order your food in Italian and do, or cook a meal or something. So that it wasn't just sort of sitting behind the desk, you know, repeating the grammar.
Yes, that's the way to do it, yes.
Oh, it's lovely. I think you should do it.
I will.
Definitely.
Question number 1. What is the man thinking of doing?
你識唔識講意大利文啊？我記得你之前好似學過㗎喎。 係啊，我識㗎。我之前有去上關於意大利文嘅堂，我好中意同埋我好享受上嗰堂。你覺得學意大利文容唔容易啊？我覺得幾容易㗎，因為意大利文裡面有好多嘅詞彙啦，佢係有好多嘅理論喺裡面。但係我成日都會唔記得，因為我好耐都未去過意大利㗎啦。你覺得去到但係如果我去到嗰邊嘅話，再學少少嘢，我就會好快咁樣可以再講到出嚟㗎。你覺得喺意大利嗰個國家裡面嘅時候，你覺得意大利文係容易啲嘅係咪啊？你更加願意講意大利文係咪啊？係啊，我之前喺嗰邊做嘢，跟住大概係幾個月嘅時間啦。再由意大利翻嚟嘅時候，我覺得我嘅意大利文簡直係完美嘅。哦，係咩？但我就唔係好願意再去講意大利文，因為我好驚會講錯。你唔使驚講錯㗎喎，我覺得都係啊，我應該更加勇敢啲。當你去到意大利嗰邊嘅時候，你見到人哋好自然咁樣去講意大利文，用一個好平常嘅，佢哋覺得好平常嘅語速係完全唔同嘅。有啲時候你係需要講意大利文㗎。當你去到店鋪嘅時候，去買嘢嘅時候，你就知道你而家要同人哋交流啦。咁你要去講出嚟嘅，因為你都學過啊嘛。關於詞彙嗰啲咧，你會唔會有啲時候係想講，但係你唔知嗰個字啱唔啱，或者有講錯啊？有咁樣嘅情況啊，但係我知道咗自己有錯之後，我就會去再查返。如果我查到話自己係講得啱嘅話，我就會好開心。如果係唔啱嘅話，咁我就會再睇落去啦。有啲時候你係要有啲勇氣嘅，你要知道話你係需要有啲勇氣先可以你係需要啲勇氣去做呢樣嘢嘅。你係咪私人補課啊？即係一個對一個咁樣，但係你有個老師對住好多同學咧。我上嘅嗰個係一個比較多人嘅課堂嚟㗎，我比較係同同學喺度講嘢啦，有陣時都幾有趣㗎。但係你就唔使驚話自己會做錯嘢，因為你會有功課㗎嘛。就好似個情況就好似係你翻去咗學校學嘢咁樣，都幾有趣㗎。有陣時有啲活動係去意大利餐廳啦，咁你自己要用意大利文去點一個去點餐嘅時候係比較有趣嘅，好過你喺課室之中重複溫習嗰啲文化上面嘅嘢。我好中意意大利文㗎，咁你都可以試下去做啦。好啊，我會試下㗎啦。
Question number 2. Why is it quite easy to learn Italian according to the woman? As many as 10,000 put up to a possible war on Iraq. As many as 10. Question number 4. What does the woman say about her learning of Italian?
Questions 6 to 10 are based on the following news.
New York. The Pentagon plans to mobilize thousands of National Guard and reserve.
等陣，佢講咩啊？呆住咗啊 ！Fuck！
Troops in the...
So that it wasn't just sort of sitting behind the desk, repeating the grammar.
Yes, that's the way to do it, yes.
Oh, it's lovely. I think you...
Question number 4. What does the woman say? Question number 5. What did the woman especially enjoy about her language learning course? Has plans to activate roughly the same number of... Question number 5. What did the woman especially enjoy about her language learning course?
講完呢個我哋走啦。
Questions 6 to 10 are based on the following news.
New York. The Pentagon plans to mobilize thousands of National Guard and Reserve troops in the next several days to fill military jobs that would be key in the event of a U.S. war with Iraq, the New York Times reported today, citing Defense Department officials. As many as 10,000 reservists, mainly military police units, will be activated for security duty in the United States and abroad in what will likely be the first in a wave of mobilizations, unnamed officials told the Times. Although no final decisions have been made, the Pentagon, if President George W. Bush orders the attack on Iraq, has plans to activate roughly the same number of reservists as were used during the Gulf War of 1991, when about 256,000 reservists were summoned to active duty, the Times said in its online edition. So far, 50,755 reservists have been mobilized for the defense of the United States after the September 11 attacks and for the war in Afghanistan, the Times said. Berlin. German Defense Minister Peter Strzok said his country will but plan purchase it.
呢個我一陣上過聽。呢個我唔得，呢個我唔得。呢個拜拜。係咁。